rights. Now, the focus of today will be in particular about on the Gulf Cooperation Council. We have a very interesting panel here present with us today. We have here, let's see, Dr. Fouad Ibrahim on my left. Then we have Jawad Fayrouz. We have Ahmed Ben Shwait. And we have Sarah Margrotto, who will all speak one after another. They will also all show a video on their respective topics. So it's going to be a dynamic session. Great. So just to introduce these speakers to you, starting with Dr. Fouad Ibrahim. He is a deputy president of the International Council supporting human rights and fair trial. And he's an activist from Saudi Arabia who will be speaking to us about political executions in Saudi Arabia. Then we have Mr. Jawad Fayrouz. Now, Jawad Fayrouz, he is founder of Salam for Democracy and Human Rights, and he works as a defender and advocate for democratic reform and seeks also reprieve for people who are violated in their human rights. Now, he used to be an MP in Bahrain, but currently lives in exile in London because he was stripped of his nationality in 2012, making him stateless. He holds a bachelor in science from the University of Texas and also has practical experience as an electrical engineer, so there you go. Then we have Ahmed Ben Shwait, who is a stateless Kuwaiti and currently a doctoral researcher at UCL in London, where he writes on linguistic and legal anthropology, and in particular he is investigating arbitrary deprivation of nationality in Kuwait, and particularly through an international criminal law perspective. Yeah, so the question of arbitrary deprivation as a matter of persecution under international criminal law. Great, and then we have Sarah Margrotto, who is a researcher for Salam DHR and also a master's student in international law at the Graduate Institute. Great, so if I can start with you, Dr. Fouad Ibrahim. I'll first display the video, and then we'll get to speak.
In Saudi Arabia, silence is not peace. It is fear enforced by death.
This is one of the main checkpoints going into Awamir. It seems pretty busy right now, but after dark we're told the situation changes. All these big trucks forming a ring of steel around this town. It's the only way right now the government feels that it can control the situation here.
It's quite difficult to get here. Only a very few journalists managed to make it to Al-Arabiya.
Forces used to disperse us with live ammunition. You can be sentenced to death and you belong to a different religious sect. When you are humiliated and deprived of your freedom, you can't just stay quiet.
Saudi Arabia's Shia minority have long complained of oppression under the country's Sunni establishment.
Political opponents, teenagers, human rights defenders. Their crime? Speaking up. Sheikh Nimr al-Nimr. He was executed for peaceful sermons. Mustafa al-Darwish was brutally arrested at 17 and tortured at confession. Ali al-Nimr, executed after years on death row. These are not terrorists. They're victims of a regime that kills to rule. Blind justice in Saudi Arabia is not oblivious. It is weaponized. Confessions are extracted under torture. Trials held in secret. Appeals denied. Death guaranteed. In Saudi Arabia, the regime sits at the United Nations Human Rights Council. While it crushes every human right at home, every life matters. Demand justice and the executions. Speak for the silence.
Yes. Good afternoon. We are here today to sound the alarm over the systematic expanding use of death penalty in the Saudi Kingdom, a country that not only continues to apply capital punishment in violation of international standards, but also sits as a member of this council enjoying privileges it doesn't extend to its own citizens. According to documentation from Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, and the European Saudi Organization for Human Rights, the scale and scope of executions in Saudi Arabia over the past decade is nothing short of alarming. In 2022 alone, Saudi Arabia executed 147 people. In 2023, the number reached 172 executions, making it one of the highest execution rates in the world per capita. The year 2022 witnessed a mass execution of 81 people in a single day, one of the largest in the kingdom's modern history. Since 2015, when King Salman came to power and Mohammed bin Salman became crown prince, more than 1,100 executions have been carried out, with the vast majority involving non-violent offenses, especially drug-related crimes or vaguely defined charges such as spreading corruption or disobedience to the ruler. This is not merely about numbers, it is about patterns of arbitrariness, secrecy, and repression. Saudi Arabia's legal system continues to violate the most basic standards of fair trial. Trials are closed, often with no access to independent legal representation. Confessions extracted under torture are routinely used to justify death sentences. Judges wield unchecked discretion, and there is no independent judiciary. Defendants are frequently denied information about the charges or evidence against them. Execution orders are often carried out without prior notice to families or legal teams. The UN Special Rapporteur on extradition, summary or arbitrary executions has repeatedly expressed concern over Saudi Arabia's failure to meet international fair trial guarantees under the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, a treaty Saudi Arabia has not ratified, but whose principles it continues to breach as a member of this council. One of the most disturbing developments in recent years is the use of the death penalty as a political tool to suppress dissent and intimidate communities. At least 40 executions since 2016 have involved political prisoners, many of whom were charged with participating in protests or opposing the ruler. Many of those executed have been from the Shia minority, particularly in the Eastern Province, where political protests erupted in 2011. Among the victims are juvenile offenders, including Ali al-Rabah, whose case drew international attention before his sentence was commuted. Despite promises to limit the use of death penalty, especially for minors, executions continue to target those who were under 18 at the time of their alleged offense, in a breach of the Convention of the Rights of the Child, which Saudi Arabia has ratified. The Saudi government has launched a well-funded public relations campaign portraying Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman as a modernizer, but the facts on the ground tell a different story. While women are now allowed to drive, female human rights defenders were jailed and tortured. While concerts and sport events are staged, political prisoners are beheaded. In April 2024, just months before this session, Saudi Arabia resumed executions for drug offenses after claiming it had imposed a moratorium. The pattern is clear: cosmetic reforms to placate international audiences, while intensifying domestic repression through one of the most brutal penal systems in the world. It is not merely problematic, it is morally untenable that a country with one of the highest execution rates that routinely carries out mass execution, target minors, use torture, and weaponizes the judiciary against political opponents should be entrusted with a seat in this council, whose mission to uphold the highest standards in the promotion and the protection of human rights. Allowing such membership undermines the credibility of this institution. We therefore call on the Human Rights Council and its member states to take the following urgent concrete actions. Launch an independent international investigation, possibly under the auspices of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, into the use of the death penalty in Saudi Arabia, with a focus on due process violations, allegations of torture, political executions of juveniles, establish a special rapporteur or independent expert on the human rights and situation in Saudi Arabia, a measure long overdue. Urge Saudi Arabia to implement an immediate moratorium on all executions in line with UN General Assembly's Resolution 77/222, which calls for a global moratorium. Pressure Saudi authorities to ratify the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, ICCPR, an optional protocol on the abolition of the death penalty. Abolish the death penalty for non-violent offenses. Commute all executing death sentences for juveniles, offenders, and political prisoners. Publicly name and shame member states that continue to carry out mass executions and violate their human rights obligations, especially when they hold positions of influence within the HRC, Human Rights Council. Finally, this is not about Saudi Arabia. It is about the integrity of the international human rights system. It is about whether this council will continue to look the other way in the face of atrocities committed by its own members. If we fail to act, if we allow blood to flow from the gallows without consequence, we embolden impunity, we betray our mandate, and we tell the world that justice is selective and that the powerful are exempt from scrutiny. Let us prove otherwise. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for Ibrahim. I would now like to invite Jawad Fairuz to speak, but before we do so, we have another video to show, so we'll get to that now.
In Bahrain, behind the polished facade, a darker reality unfolds. Since 2011, Bahrain has silenced thousands for demanding freedom, justice, and dignity. Human rights defenders such as Abdul Hadi Al-Khawaja,
Sheikh Ali Salman,
Hassan Mushayma, and hundreds more are imprisoned, tortured, or deported. They called for reform and were met with prison walls and torture chambers. Bahrain has criminalized the civil society. There is no space left for dissent, only fear. Despite global outcry, Bahrain's rulers continue their crackdown, shielded by powerful allies. The world must speak. Silence is complicity. Demand justice for Bahrain before the next generation will be silenced.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and I'm pleased to be with you today and focus over the case of the human rights in Bahrain. As indicated, although we are focusing over the GCC country, we have the case of Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and Kuwait, but in general, this is as symbol types of the Arab wars where these human rights violations is continuous. Let me indicate that all of us wishing to have a security and stability in the region. And as we know, the Middle East is very, very important geographical location where I hope that all our efforts can lead to the further security and stability. In my opinion, the security and stability cannot be achieved unless the continuous and sustainable developments will be adopted by the authorities, and that's required a political progress be adopted by the authorities through the democratic process, and political reforms could be part of the agenda of the governments, and all should be based on the human rights and whatever the international community agreed through the conventions. Accordingly, we are focusing now over these core human rights and grave human rights violation occurred in Bahrain, starting with the death penalty. We have 26 cases on row, which already they finished entire judicial process, and in 2017, 3 political prisoners is being executed, and similarly in 2019, another 3 is being executed, and yet we have 26, which we are afraid that by any time they could be executed, although they are being given promises by the authorities in Bahrain that such executed will not be done yet. Although Bahraini authorities didn't sign the moratorium in 2023 when being requested that to sign it, yet they didn't sign it. So that indication that still there is a big worry about the life of those who are now being sentenced to life, sentenced to death. About the revocation of nationality, which personally I am a victim of the revocation of nationality. The authorities use the revocation of nationality as a political oppression due to our political disagreement with the government. Although I was a former MP, my nationality is being revoked, and that started in 2012 and continued till 2019, where the number reached 990, either through royal decree or by the governmental decision, or later on some amendment is being done to the nationality law and protecting the society from any terror act, which given the judiciary to revoke nationality. The total number reached 990, but through the advocacy and campaign and let me say the involvement of the international community, the number is being reduced later on when the king reinstated 551 in April 2019. But yet we have 435 cases. Mostly they are living in diaspora, they are living in exile, their nationality is being revoked. Only the crime they committed, because they have some differences with the government, and they are either activists, or they are human rights defenders, or there are some people that have been involved even within the governmental process as a former MP, former elected councillor, and so on. Last case was one of the former MPs. It was last year when he expressed his view in one of the council sessions, represented a House of Representatives, Mohammed al-Husseini. Although he was considered to be as a loyal to the government, just he expressed his view toward the demand of the release of the prisoners, and he mentioned that the dissolved political societies to be restored. After a week, the king issued a decree that the government have the right to cancel the membership of the member of the House of Representatives, and then by backdated, although he'd been elected in 2002, the royal decree was 2024. Backdated, this decree has been implemented. His nationality has been revoked. His children's nationality has been revoked. Then, when his wife, she is Bahraini, he made a plea and a plea to the king that she cannot live without them if they're going to be forcibly deported. Then his children has been reinstated. He been detained. Then he been forcibly deported to Pakistan because he originally was in Pakistan, although he was away from Pakistan for more than 45 years. Imagine such act will be done. When it comes to the issue of the tortures, I believe the Committee Against Torture, their latest report, they already indicated that there is a systematic types of the torture. Although the types of the physical torture has been now changed, there are some types of the psychological torture is there, or how those who wanted to be targeted, either they're gonna not having any certificate by the authorities for a good conduct certificate, or maybe they will not have be in position to be employed, or the governmental services will not be provided to them, or their families will be targeted. And we have lists of so many activists, so many politicians who are all being tortured in different types, and even some of them which been women and they've been under sexual harassment and so on. When it comes to the forcible deportation, we have so many cases where those who are after their revocation of nationality, they've been forcibly deported outside of Bahrain, and they became stateless. And I know so many of them who couldn't reach to the Europe to apply for asylum. They gone to either Lebanon or Iraq or Iran. Still they are stateless, and they are really without any documentation. And imagine their newborn babies becoming stateless. When it comes for the political rights, since 2012, many NGOs, their licensee is being dissolved. For example, Amal Political Society, 2016, Al-Wafaq Political Society, 2017, Wa'ad Political Society, all the political society is being dissolved. And accordingly, in 2018, the authorities amended the political rights to practice your right within the law. That had been amended, where all their members, and I have estimation for more than 80 to 90,000, all their political rights is being banned. They cannot vote, they cannot nominate themselves in any election, and later on they made amendment even in the civil associations and the clubs associations, that they cannot nominate themselves in the board of director of these civil types of the associations, charity funds, clubs, sport clubs, cultural clubs, and so on. Their name will be deleted from nomination and so on. So still there's a big issue that they are being deprived for their political rights. The opposition leaders, they are behind the bar. They are sentenced to life. We have Sheikh Ali Salman, we have Hassan Mishami, we have Abdul Wahab Hussein, we have Mohammed Habib Miqdad, and the list. Abdul Jalil Sinkis and Abdul Hadi Khawaja, they are well known. The international Abdul Hadi Khawaja is a well known human rights defenders with so many internationally campaigns being demanded for his release. Dr. Abdul Jalil Sinkis is one of the academic person that internationally his case has been focused on. Still he's been sentenced to life, although he is not health-wise in a good condition and so on. So still they are behind the ball. About the general political of conscience, we have now 330 political of conscience. Many of them has been released either through king pardon or through alternative sentences or open sentences. It was good indication, but in our evaluation, political prisoners or prisoner of conscience never ever should be sentenced by any types of the punishment, neither through alternative sentences or open prisoners. They should be released and then to be compensated, and then any types of the judiciary or transitional justice to be adopted. We can see such discrimination is going on among different types of the communities. For example, we can find out that revocation of nationality impacted the most high-ranking religious of the Shia community. We have Ayatollah Muhammad Sanad, we have Ayatollah Isa Qasim, we have Ayatollah the Najati, all of them, the most high-ranking Shia communities leaders, all their nationality is being revoked and they are being expelled out of the country, and so on. So that clear indication that such way is not the right way to have stability and security. When it comes to the UN mechanism, I will end it here. Since 2008, we had 8 recommendations by the UPR, but when the uprising started in 2011, when the second UPR was 2012, the number jumped to 175. Then it repeated once again, 176 recommendation. 2017, the recommendation was 175. Imagine in 2002, where the authorities claimed that they are improving the human rights conditions and they have national human rights plan and so on, the recommendation jumped to 245. That was clear indication that still such human rights violations is going on, although the majority of these recommendations are. I will end up to saying that since 2006 till today, there is no special rapporteur is being allowed to visit Bahrain. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ندوة. I would now like to pass the word on to Ahmed Ben Shwe. But again, once and Brussels, I have first like to with you.
In Kuwait, citizenship can disappear without any warning and without a reason. Revocation of nationality in Kuwait is not an exception. It is a silent policy. For the stateless, every door is closed. Citizenship isn't just a passport, it is a survival. Bedouin children born on Kuwaiti soil are denied the nationality. Families split by arbitrary laws. Their lives are suspended in legal limbo. Citizenship is a right where it is not a privilege to grant or to withdraw nor to be deprived. Kuwait's policies defy international law.
Thank you very much. Again, I am also drawing on personal experience. I've been stateless since I was born in Kuwait in 1984. Until today, I can say I faced probably most, if not all, kind of struggles of stateless people, from child labor, and you can imagine, until becoming a political refugee in the United Kingdom. But I also I want to quote my late mother, who used to remind me that instead of cursing the darkness, let's try to let light a light, you know? So we talk about the situation, the current situation of arbitrary revocation of nationality, actually mass arbitrary revocation of nationality in Kuwait. The very recent situation, more than almost 60,000 persons have been arbitrarily made without nationality, without Kuwaiti nationality. 40,000 of them are women, innocent women, just woke up in the morning, found their names on social media without any consultation with them, without anything. They just heard from the news, from social media, while arbitrary deprivation of nationality was often used as a tool, political tool to target dissent. This situation, the new situation where women are involved, cannot be explained, cannot be understood, you know. They don't have any kind of political orientations or whatever. And this is not the only thing. The government also, starting from 2023, December 2023, after suspending the parliament and articles from the constitutions that make check and balance on the powers of the executive, the government amended Kuwait nationality law in a way to make sure that there are no safeguards against statelessness. Killed all the hopes that stateless people, long-standing stateless people of Kuwait had. They removed an article that gave them very slim hope to have nationality through naturalization. Also cancelled out the Article 8 from Kuwait nationality law, which gave women access to nationality when they get married to a Kuwaiti man. There are also news that they are cancelling Article 3, which gave nationality to foundlings. But also, on the other hand, the government expanded their power to withdraw nationality for criticism of the executive and so on. I mean, so this is the problem. Okay, what can we do about it? Because it is not, it is going too far. It is reaching limits where we cannot understand, and we cannot even anticipate what will happen tomorrow. Now, 60,000 people added to more than 100,000 people without nationality, they are becoming vulnerable to all kinds of human rights violations, exploitation, illegal migration, forced migration, and so on. So as a person with lived experience of statelessness, of displacement, persecution, but also as a researcher, I'm currently doing my doctoral research at University College of London, where I study persecution in terms of the international criminal law, persecution as a crime against humanity. And it happens that statelessness is also defined as per Rome Statute, Article 7, deprivation, deliberate and severe deprivation of nationality is a form of persecution, meaning it is a crime against humanity. So we are talking about gross violations of human rights. So we are using this platform to try to address these situations, but also maybe to think what could be done more, because things are not improving at all. Yeah, I mean, this is what I wanted to share, and I don't know whether we will have a chance to have some kind of feedback or Q&A. Yeah, thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much for coming here today to speak about this topic. Now, as our final speaker for this afternoon, I would like to invite Sarah Magroko to present the report on the human rights situation, also in the Gulf. And depending on how long it takes, we'll have some time for questions afterwards. So,
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. Today, on behalf of the ICSFT, I will be presenting the briefing on human rights conditions in GCC states, which is also displayed on the table just outside the room. This is it. Particularly on the deterioration of the human rights conditions in the Gulf Cooperation Council states, with a focus on the escalating political executions in Saudi Arabia and the mass citizenship revocations in Kuwait. This report is submitted by the International Council for Supporting Fair Trial and Human Rights, which is a non-governmental organization with the ECOSOC status, dedicated to the promotion and protection of human rights in the GCC states. This submission aims to draw urgent attention to the persistent and in some cases alarming deteriorating human rights situations that particularly highlight the significant rise in political executions in Saudi Arabia and the widespread arbitrary revocation of the Kuwaiti nationality affecting tens of thousands of individuals. The report focuses on two urgent and alarming developments. Firstly, the sharp rise in political executions in Saudi Arabia. In 2024, at least 345 people were executed, which is nearly the double of the number from the previous year, with many cases involving peaceful dissent or minor non-violent charges. The trend has continued into 2025 with widespread violations of fair trial standards, including torture, lack of legal representations, and secret proceedings. Secondly, Kuwait's mass revocation of citizenship, which is affecting over 42,000 people in just 6 months. These actions, often targeting naturalized citizens and the stateless Bedouin community, have left many without access to healthcare, education, or basic civil rights, and without any real legal recourse. The report also points to the broader systematic issues across the GCC member states, which are Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates, which is the repression of free speech, arbitrary detention, exploitation of migrant workers under the kafala system, and ongoing discrimination, particularly against women and stateless populations. In conclusion, the report calls on the international community, especially the Human Rights Council, to intervene. It urges immediate actions to halt executions, restore citizenship rights, ensure due process, and protect civil society across the region. Without sustained international pressure, these abuses will continue unchecked, and the fundamental rights of millions will remain at risk. Thank you.
I would like to open the floor to questions. If anyone has any, please feel free to go ahead or raise your hand. Okay. Would you perhaps like to add a comment or maybe comment on each other? Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, thanks. We believe that it is totally, we have to cooperate and coordinate to how to utilize whatever way possible the UN mechanisms. Yet we feel that whatever human rights mechanism, either through special procedures or any types of the special rapporteurs or UPR or human rights committees and so on, has been effective, but not effective way that to stop such human rights violations. I illustrated that in Bahrain case, for example, we have so many human rights committees discussing issues related to the torture, issue related to the political rights, issue related to the children's rights or women's rights and so on, but yet in the ground, no such major changes is being done. In the same way, there are no clear vision to even be along with this human rights through changing the legislation and so on. And this is seriously is very worrying issue. Yes, in one hand, so many semi-governmental organizations has been established. For example, in Bahrain, we have the embassies, we have National Institution for Human Rights, we have Commissioner of Prisoners, we have Special Unit Investigation, and so on. But practically, they are not so much independent, and at the same time, they are not given an indication that they are in favor to protecting the rights of the victims. They are just decorative type. When it comes to the types of the recommendation being submitted to Bahrain through all this mechanism, we can see it has been repeated so many times, the similar types of the violations occurred. And for example, if we come to the right of the woman to pass their nationality to their children, so many recommendations being given to Bahrain to provide the same right that men they have, where they can pass their nationality to their children. The women, they have to right to pass the nationality to their children too, but yet nothing such things is being done, and so on. So for us, it is so much worrying, and this is our call to the Human Rights Council with the different types of the UN mechanism. Such upgrade is required, and a joint effort is required. I think one of the main obstacles is that such countries is being protected by some international main players. For instance, for Bahrain, as you know, the international alliance is by United States and United Kingdom, because they are benefiting a lot economically, militarily, investment, and so on in Bahrain. United States, they have Fifth Fleet. United Kingdom, they have Air Force Base. They have a Marine Base, United Kingdom, and so on. So this is, I think, it is not a clear indication that we are having double standards. In certain countries, with the same human rights violation, so many sanctions is being imposed. Although we are not in favor to impose any sanction in any country, because at the end the people will suffer, but there should be a clear promises. There should be a clear pledges by these states to the international community. I cannot imagine that issue of the torture and issue of the prison conditions, for example, issue related of the continuous of the not signing the moratorium on the death penalty, issue related of the forcible deportation, issue related to the revocation of nationalities. Although it's been repeated to Bahrain in so many times through all these human rights communities, in the same times in the UPR process, but not yet in the ground. And the last point I can indicate that there is parliamentary and municipality elections coming on in Bahrain in next year, possibly October or November. I think now this is a good chance that the Bahrainis, that they try to adopt a clear vision. Now they are reviewing the National Human Rights Action Plan to second phase, which is going to be from 2026 till 2030. There's a good chance to be more serious and implement with the goodwill, with a good political will, to implement all these recommendations, at the same time to lift ban over all these dissolved political societies and provide all political rights to reach the national reconciliation and then adaptation of the clear vision and practical vision through the political and human rights reforms. Thank you.
Yes, I would like to add that many of our friends raise a question about the activities and the campaigns they organize and the impact on the governments that violate the human rights standards. For instance, last year, Saudi government executed a number of prisoners while the session was on in Geneva. And also the rate of executions has risen, and without consideration to human rights standards or even the conventions they signed. Actually, I believe that without promoting mechanisms of pressurizing the state members, I think this cycle will continue. So we need to promote different tools to impose certain sanctions, certain procedures, to let these governments, to let the state members to at least to commit to and the conventions they sign, and this mechanism is the only way, because we raised this question also with some staff in the Human Rights Council, that we haven't noticed any improvement of human rights conditions throughout the years. Conversely, the opposite has happened, and situations is deteriorating. Human rights conditions are deteriorating, and state members seems like they don't care, and some powerful states give a blind eye to these states, considering their national interests or economic interests in this region, and they don't practice their influence to improve the human rights conditions in this region or in the GCC states. Especially, I can say that U.S. administration, for instance, I didn't notice a word of human rights and their rhetoric and their language since Trump came to power, came to White House. So I think we need to continue raising this question to human rights, to the people who are concerned with the human rights conditions in the region and the world as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to echo Dr. Fuad also, that we do really need effective mechanisms for accountability, because what is happening, for example, again, going back to the situation of Kuwait, there is an active destruction of Kuwait as a state that has institutions, that has rule of law, that has democracy. And you know, without democracy, without rule of law, corruption and, you know, all kind of evil can end up, you know, rising. So we know that there are limitations to human rights mechanisms, to any mechanisms, but we are not trees. Even trees can change. We change these mechanisms. We develop them as we experience the world, and from our lived experiences also we can pinpoint where the problems are and what kind of corrective actions needed. So again, you know, effective accountability mechanisms, I think that's what we need. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes. Yeah.
You've got a question.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. Please, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes. If you could please introduce yourself also.
Yeah, thank you for all these videos and all this information. I have one question.
Sorry, could you
and personal curiosity.
could you speak up a little bit?
Sorry, can you hear me
Yeah,
now?
that's better.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, thank you. I was saying thank you for the video and thank you for all this information. I have one question. It could be my personal curiosity, but I was just wondering, how do you see the relationship or the interaction between cultural and religious aspects on human rights issues that's happening in this region? Thank you.
I can admit it is not easy to answer it, but initially we agree that each nation, they have their own cultural habits that should be respected. But in general, in the Gulf region, whatever cultural, either social cultural or religious oriented cultural, is not deviating much through major issues related to the human rights. Although sometimes we can see some types of the priority of the male over females, for example, or sometimes a ban of certain types of the movement related to the gender discrimination. Yes, this is occurring there, but there are now improvement that they can be having little bit more equal right. Politically, not all the GCC countries, they given the right of the woman for vote or to nominate themselves for any elected councils, if there are going to be any elected councils. For example, in Bahrain, there are equal rights for women and women. There are elected women in the House of Representatives, and even there are elected women in the House and the municipality councils, for example, and there are some appointed women even in the Shura councils, for example. But the issue is that they are powerless. They don't have the full power to pass legislation or to make accountable the governmental personnel and so on. And this is what is concerns there. For example, in Bahrain, there is a High Supreme Council for Women headed by the king's wife, which makes that not totally independent body by any types of authorities. But in general, I think that we cannot see a grave types of the evaluations with regards of the human rights because of the culture and its sense. Go ahead.
Yes, also I'd like to add that as a person came from a country which is based on ideological account like Saudi Arabia, which uses the religious pretext as justification to ignore or to deny some conventions related to women's rights or some certain rights and freedoms. I think this issue should be deeply and profoundly approached and discussed, because to let some countries use the religious pretext to escape from their commitments, I think is just a crime against their people, because this justification does not reflect the essence of the issue, because so many people have no problem with religious interpretation unless the government uses this interpretation to avoid their commitment to certain rights, especially when it comes to women. So I think your question is valid, is still valid, although the Saudi government made some improvements in terms of women's rights, but the question is still valid. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So quickly, if I understood, correctly, the relationship between religion, culture, and human rights violations, I think there is an implication that maybe certain kind of cultures and religions, people maybe misunderstand or misinterpret them and use them maybe to commit human rights violations. I think in the context of Kuwait, there are provisions in the constitution. They say the religion of the country is Islam, but when we demand our human rights based on Islam, they say no, we are a secular country. So the religion, I think religion is deception. The politicians use deception. This is their religion: domination, lust for power. I don't think they believe in the universal kind of values of Christianity or Islam or Judaism or all religions that embrace love, peace, giving, stuff like this. No, I think they just use it when it fits their interests. Otherwise, it's just there. Thank you very much.
Very, very good point. I'm sorry, just one follow-up question.
Sorry,
Okay.
apologies to interrupt. We have.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry to interrupt, but unfortunately we are reaching the very end, so we don't have any more time for questions here on the podium. Great. I would like to thank everyone very much for being here. I wanted to just quickly end with some words also and say that right? We've spoken today about Bahrain, about Qatar, about Saudi Arabia. We hear these gentlemen explaining that the situation on the ground is not getting better, and I just want to emphasize that this is about these countries, but it's also about all of us, right? There's a lack of external accountability. It means that all of us have to take these rights and these procedures seriously. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The mic should go somewhere or sit? Oh, okay.